Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Alexei from Stripe, and today we're talking about something every sender cares about, whether your email actually reached the inbox. Here's the thing, it is rare for an email to be blocked for one big reason. Inbox placement is built from dozens of small trust signals. Your display name, your from address, your subject line, your footer, even your unsubscribe link. Each of them shapes whether your email feels safe and wanted. So today we're going to take an email apart piece by piece and see where those signals live and where the mistakes hide. Please meet our today's speaker. Our guest, MV Braverman, is the founder Inbox Welcome and Thank You.fyi and the creator of Email Fails, the newsletter about real-world mistakes in emails. MV helps email organizations get their emails seen, trusted, and acted on. And their approach is grounded in a simple belief. Every sender is also a recipient, and the best email programs respect both. Hi, MV.
Hello, I am delighted to be here.
Awesome. And Dmitro Kudrenko, founder and CEO of Stripe, an entrepreneur with over 25 years in software development, 15 of them in email marketing. He's an expert in email automation, and he helps marketers create great emails quickly without coding. Hi, Dmitro.
Hello, Alexei. Hello, MV, and hello to everybody. MV, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, so here's what we will cover today. While emails reach the inbox or don't because of many small trust signals, not one technical setting. Where the common mistakes hide and how mailbox providers and subscribers see your email differently than you do. And real mistakes from email fails and how to fix them. By the end, you will have a practical checklist to run before every send. So let's get started. And V, the floor is yours.
Okay, so how do I, again, make it share? Again, thanks so much for having me. I love to talk about email and to dissect the anatomy of a deliverable email. Most people think of deliverability as something that happens after they press send. Did it go to spam? Did people open it? But the conditions for deliverability are actually built into the email before it ever leaves your sending platform. And today we're going to look at the email itself, the parts people see, the parts mailbox providers evaluate, and the places where senders accidentally create confusion or risk. What is an email? First, email isn't just the message that you send. It's really the relationship between the sender and the recipient. And that relationship is increasingly mediated by mailbox providers, by email clients, by security system, and especially AI tools. Just getting sent is not enough because sent isn't the same as seen. Most sender dashboards make it look a lot more binary than it really is. Sent, delivered, opened, clicked. But from the recipient side, it's a lot messier. An email can be accepted by the server, but placed in spam or open and not recognized, and reported because the context was missing. Hi, I'm MV Braverman, as I've been introduced. So I am the founder of Inbox Welcome and creator of Mail Fails. And my focus is on deliverability, which is inbox placement. Because the important thing, a lot of people think that what I do is just a tiny sliver. But really, it doesn't matter how beautiful or well-written the email is if it does not make it into the inbox. So when I look at deliverability, when I do an audit, I use 3 lenses: tech, content, and relationship. The tech is kind of the machine foundation: authentication, domain, headers, infrastructure, just generally signals that help mailbox providers verify that the message is really from who it claims to be from. Content is the message itself. It's the words, the structure, the layout, the links, accessibility, and whether the email makes sense to when someone opens it. And increasingly, that content is not just interpreted by humans, but also by AI summarizers and other tools, which can read, compress, or completely reframe the message before the recipient spends any actual attention on it. So the structure really matters a lot. And the third one is the relationship. And this relationship has two sides. There's the relationship with the recipients. Do they recognize you? Do they expect this email? Do they understand why they're getting it? And there's also the mailbox provider relationship. Have you built a sending pattern that looks consistent, wanted, and low risk over time? And the big mistake is treating these as separate. The technical setup absolutely matters, but it cannot compensate for confusing content or a weak or non-existent relationship. Good content can't overcome a sending pattern that mailbox providers have learned to distrust. A deliverable email needs all three of those working together. So let's quickly cover the mailbox provider rules that Google and Yahoo and later Microsoft and Apple and others have given to us. So the first one is authenticate your email. And there's a technical side to it, which is SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. There's also a human side to it, which is your display name, your from address. Sending emails that people want. There's a technical side of keeping it under a threshold. There's also, again, a human side, a clear sign up where you set expectations, only an opt-in list, and make it readable and engaging. And lastly, making it easy to unsubscribe. So there's technical specifications to this. Your email marketing platform adds specific headers. It's also your link and footer. The human side is, please don't hide the link. I have seen it pretty much unreadable. That does not actually make people stay on your list. Remove people quickly. Ideally, let people set their preferences or opt out of specific campaigns. So now that we've covered the basics, the foundation, let's dive into the actual emails. So before people open, they decide. Before anyone reads your email, they see the inbox list. And this is the first visible layer of deliverability and where a lot of decisions happen quickly. The recipients are not asking, is this campaign optimized or correct for me? They're asking, do I recognize this? Does it look relevant and safe? Do I care enough to open it right now? That means that the inbox list has a relationship job before it has a copywriting job. The sender name, subject line, and preview text need to work together to create recognition and context. If your sender name is not familiar, the subject line has to work harder. The subject line is vague, the preview text has to work harder. And if all three are weak, the recipient can ignore it, or delete it, or report it without ever actually seeing the email. And this is where senders overfocus a lot of times on persuasion and underfocus on recognition. Cleverness can help once the relationship and recognition is strong. But for many small senders, especially if you email it inconsistently, clarity beats cleverness every single time. So the first thing is the sender name. This is your identity. It's not decoration. The display name should answer one question: who is this from? And good display names are clear, consistent, and recognizable. A lot of times I see unclear brand names, sometimes personal name versus company name mismatched, and changing sender names. And so this is an example of this is a business newsletter, but the display name says Jennifer. It doesn't show their last name. It doesn't show their business name. And here are some name mistakes that I see. Do not make display names look like a subject line, an alert, a reply thread, personalization trick, or a graphic element. This is very much mailbox providers are really cracking down on this. So here we have a display name that makes it look like there's a conversation thread. Do use the sender identity that the recipient expects. So it could be inbox welcome, MV at inbox welcome, Stripe, Google Workspace. And it's okay if you change it up a little bit and have like brand name with fall deals. But again, they have to know who they're receiving an email from. So the subject line in preview text, increasingly the preview text is being replaced by AI summaries. So we have the subject line is a promise. The preview text is the intended context. And traditionally, the subject and preview text worked as a pair. But now we might have the promise and the extracted context from the AI summarizer. So the job of the email has actually changed. You're no longer writing the exact preview line you set in your email platform. You're also writing for whatever the inbox can extract from the message. So together, these create the first impression and the decision point. Common issues I see, the subject line gets clipped into funny nonsense. The preview text repeats the subject. The preview text can show admin text or start of the email body, or the AI summary surfaces the wrong point. So here's some examples from mail fails. This is a funny clip of playful baby styles from hell. Probably not what they intended. And you can't really control a lot of this. Sometimes it's just going to be funny. Other times you get characters that you didn't realize were sneaking in there. And this is worth testing. Other fails are not processing, basically not testing how the expansion and the liquid text are processing. So this is definitely not the subject line that the sender meant to send. And sometimes we just leave over things like English text goes here. Other times it's more subtle. So on the face of it, this looks perfectly fine until you realize that a few years ago, there was a Boston Marathon bombing. So a headline like, "Congrats, you survived the Boston Marathon," may look okay on the surface, but it's also going to trigger and upset a lot of people, and for good reason. And lastly, you have the really intentional bads, like a fake order confirmation, and inside the email you say, "We confess, you haven't actually bought anything. This is misleading, and if you do this, you would deserve a bad reputation, both from mailbox writers and the recipients." And once you open the email, you might get some interesting things, like unintentionally assigning your subscribers tasks. AI summaries seem to be especially tuned to deadlines and dates. This is a newsletter that I sent earlier this year, which created a suggested task that I did not intend. And other times, people increasingly triage their emails by summary, whether it's visual or read aloud. And unfortunately, some bad actors take advantage of this. So this is an email that is clearly fake and spam. It takes advantage of the StreamYard infrastructure, but the summary makes it look a lot more legitimate than it is. So now that we've opened the envelope, let's look at what's inside the email. So once people open, the question changes. The sender usually starts thinking about copy, design, and clicks, but the recipient is still doing the recognition check. They're asking, is this what I expected? Do I know why I'm getting it? Is this readable? Does it feel legitimate? Can I understand what to do next without thinking too hard? This section is about the visible email. The sender identity, the reply path, the message structure, personalization, and other trust signals that either reduce friction or create doubt. So the opened email gives the recipient more evidence about who the message is really from. And this is where mismatches really start to matter. The display name may say one thing, but the from address is a different thing. The reply to goes somewhere else, and the footer uses still a different legal and brand name. That's not always wrong, but if these pieces aren't connected clearly, the recipient has to do the work. And when they have to do the work, they will hesitate, ignore, unsubscribe, or complain. So, and this is especially important for small senders or consultants and nonprofits and companies with multiple programs and departments. So the recipient may not remember their full brand architecture. They remember the webinar they attended, the guide they downloaded, the person they met, the donation they made. So for deliverability, the sender identity isn't just the from field. It's the whole chain of recognition. So the recipients might or might not see the display name, the from address, the reply to address, the brand name, and the logo. So the sender should be recognizable and ideally replyable. Does your display name identify the sender clearly? Does the domain name match the brand? Can a real response go somewhere useful? And one of my strongest recommendations is to do not use no reply addresses unless there's a compelling reason. The no reply address tells the recipient that the relationship only goes one way. And also create practical problems because replies are useful signals. They tell you what people are confused about, what they need, and sometimes whether the email is reaching the right person. And lastly, there's subdomains. So ideally, you would separate, for example, transactional and marketing emails. So here are some do's and don'ts. Do use a consistent sender name with some variations. Use a from address that people can understand and that stays consistent. Use replies to when replies should go somewhere specific, but don't use a no reply email. Ideally, separate major mail streams like marketing and transactional, and keep the person, brand, product, and legal names connected. Don't use no reply by default. Don't rotate sender names casually. Ideally, don't send marketing, transactional, sales, and internal notices from one identity. Do not use a from domain unrelated to the brand. And don't let the footer reveal a sender the recipient has never heard of. And this one's a bit of a personal pet peeve. Hi first name is not personalization, and it's not a relationship. So I have a lot of examples, and a lot of times when I have been greeted by hey first name. I've been called fallback, null. I've been called friend by an accountant, which was a little odd. And more subtle mistakes like an ESP lowercasing my initials or calling me by my surname. And this one is, I think, the best example of where it looks okay on the surface, but there's really mismatched signals. So the display name is Matt from a financial startup, but the from address is no reply. So the casual greeting with my legal name, which I do not go by, does not match the rest of the context. If we are friendly, then you should know how I want to be greeted, and you should not be hiding behind a no reply address. Let's get into the email structure. The structure tells people what matters, because when someone opens the email, it does a lot of the work. And I don't mean that in the fancy design sense. I mean, can the recipient understand the message without decoding it somehow? So a well-constructed email makes these obvious. Who is this from? Why am I getting it? What is it all about? What should I do next? And what happens if I ignore it? Is there any consequences to it? Again, structure really matters because humans are not the only readers anymore. AI summaries, screen readers, Skimmers all depend on hierarchy and context. If the point is buried, vague, or only implied visually, the email is much easier to misunderstand. Clear structure makes the email more usable and more resilient. It also makes it more searchable. So make your email easy to parse. You should have clear opening context, meaningful headings, useful subheadings, short sections, ideally one primary action. Use descriptive links and button text. Definitely prioritize real text, not image-only text. If there are meaningful images, they should have alt text. Importantly, the important terms should be searchable: names, dates, topics, terms. And ideally, you should have a logical order. Set the context, tell them what the point is, give them an action, and then a graceful exit. Good message structure is critical for AI summaries. It's important for screen readers, for people who are just skimming your email. It's also important for translation tools, because not everyone who reads your email is fluent in your language. It's critical for searches. An email doesn't just do its job on the day that it arrives. It's going to show up over and over as well. And I added question marks because, as you can see, we are getting new tools every single day. So I'm sure there will be something in the future that would also depend on good message structure. So this is an example of a newsletter I recently sent, how it showed up in different mailbox writers' mailboxes. So in Microsoft Outlook, it showed my regular, the subject line that I set and the preview text that I have set. So it looks exactly how I intended, other than nudging someone to unsubscribe, which I also do inside the email. But Yahoo decided to change the summary completely. It replaced both the subject line and the preview text with their own summary and put a summary right at the top. And then Gmail, again, gave a little helpful summary, but it looked different in different inboxes. So it's worth testing. It's also a bit unpredictable. And again, you can see that the dates are highlighted quite strongly, even though it was just a short line in a much longer email. And then an important part of an email is your buttons and calls to action. This action needs to be obvious and credible. Do check if your main call to action is clear. Does the button text say what happens next? Do the links go where they appear to go? A vague button like click here or learn more may be fine in some contexts, but usually it wastes useful information. And mailbox providers and security system evaluate the links. If the visible link says one thing, but everything else feels unrelated, that can create doubt. You don't need to avoid tracking links entirely, which is obviously super common from email marketing platform, but the message should feel coherent. The sender, link text, link domain, and landing page should all tell the same stories. And we'll talk a little more about the links in a little while. A big controversial topic is images. So images, in my opinion, are the seasoning. They should not be the base of your message. Avoid image-only announcements, the text trapped inside graphics, missing or useless alt text, huge images that load slowly. Testing for dark mode issues is a whole webinar in and of itself. Also, do avoid buttons that are images. And here's why. If your email ends up in spam, or if you are a new sender to Microsoft Outlook, your images are not loaded, and recipients may not have enough context to choose to pull it out. If all I see is the subject line, the sender, and a completely blank space, I'm not going to bother pulling it out of spam, chances are. Or if your email is nothing but dark boxes, that email is not going to get read and acted on. Here's a more subtle one, and I see it once in a while. Coupon codes that are images. So if I cannot copy your coupon code, I cannot use your coupon code, especially if it's very complicated. Make it easy for people to click and copy and paste. And a little more about the links. They're not just design elements. When you're asking someone to click, the email is effectively saying that this destination is part of the same relationship. Recipients evaluate that, and security systems evaluate it too. The destination reputation matters. It matters for the deliverability of your email, even though it may not seem as part of it. If your email links to a domain that has a poor reputation and is marked dangerous, or it has been compromised, or if it sits behind a messy redirect chain, that can create risk. So the landing page and link domains are part of the email's anatomy, even though they technically live outside the message. And a more subtle thing is redirects. So most email platforms use click tracking, which already turns your click into a redirect. So if you are using a shortener like bit.ly or an affiliate redirect or some other redirect, the recipient and the security scanner can hit several hops before reaching the final page. So that looks suspicious. That can break, that can trigger security warnings, or just create a bad user experience. So links are very important. So do watch out for too many redirects, mismatched domains. Don't use shorteners if at all possible. Make sure you check the destination of your links. And don't hide the real action of the button. So, and remember that click tracking adds a redirect before anything else happens. Readable email create fewer exits. Design affects whether people can read it, find the action, or be assigned an action by the AI summary, whether they can trust the sender, use it on mobile, understand it in dark mode, and skim without losing the point, because most people aren't going to read it all the way through. Readability problems that I see a lot is very small type, aim for 18 pixel or higher fonts, poor contrast, especially in AI generated emails, image only sections, too many columns, unclear buttons, dark mode that doesn't work, or missing alt text. So let's end our email on a high note. People don't think about footer. It's kind of an afterthought, but I love looking at footers, and I always scroll down to the bottom. The footer is not just legal furniture. A good footer has legal compliance requirements, but it also helps the recipient answer. Who is this sender? Why am I getting this? Can I unsubscribe or change my preferences? Is this legitimate? A lot of times senders put legally required pieces, if they do, and just stop thinking. But it can be a real legitimacy check. So important footer elements are your sender name. CAN spam in the Act in the US requires a valid mailing address. An unsubscribe link, ideally a preferences link, especially ideally a brief permission reminder. And in some jurisdictions, you may need to link to your privacy policy and terms of service. So here are some footer mistakes that I see. This one was truly baffling. It implies that there's preferences to be had, but the only option is to unsubscribe. And again, there's no legally required information. This one is a cover basically saying we bought your list and you're getting this email because we bought it. This one is super common. They're usually not this eye-searing, which is a really dim and unreadable text. And a more subtle mistake, and this can happen if you use a program like Stripo to build your email and then later move it, is you might have a duplication of footers. So you might have a footer that you build in the platform and then your ESP attaches yet another one. So again, the legibility and the missing information is a really big one that I see constantly. And let's make the thing we don't want people to do, which is unsubscribe, really, really tiny, is another. Let people go easily and they will trust you more. So here's some layers of the unsubscribe, which is just as important as the subscribe. So make the process easy. If it's a link in the footer, send them to an unsubscribe confirmation page with a pre-filled email address. Please don't hide the links or make people log in, because a kind and clear goodbye leaves a door open for a return. This is an example of a not kind and clear goodbye where they required me to enter my full name and my email address, as well as a confusing set of choices. And this one is very confusing because people think that the one-click unsubscribe Gmail and Yahoo requirement means add an unsubscribe link that people can click once and be unsubscribed immediately. What it actually means is add the required unsubscribe headers so the mailbox writer can process the unsubscribe directly. So the requirement is about your headers. And those headers, depending on your sender reputation and technical setup, will generate these unsubscribe buttons that nudge people to unsubscribe. This unsubscribe button is a good thing if it's present, and if someone marks it as, if I tap mark as spam, Gmail will nudge me to unsubscribe instead. Unlike a spam complaint, an unsubscribe is not a hit to your sender reputation. So under the hood, we are now moving from the visible layer to the hidden layer. And this is the part that usually people usually mean when they say deliverability. But by this point, hopefully it is very clear that that's only one part of the anatomy. Mailbox writers aren't just looking at the message body. They're looking at the authentication, whether the visible sender identity matches the technical sender identity, whether the headers support expected email behaviors, links and domains look consistent, and whether recipients historically respond to the sender in a way that suggests the email is wanted. This is where the tech part of tech content and relationship becomes more obvious. But even here, it isn't just technical. So authentication is how mailbox writers verify that the message is allowed to come from the domain it claims to represent. And authentication answers, can the sender be verified? But classification answers a different question. What kind of message is this, and how risky does it look? And mailbox writers are constantly making classification decisions. So some systems assign internal judgments like, is this spam? Is this bulk email? Is the sender familiar? Is this pattern wanted? How should this be labeled? For example, Microsoft is an interesting one because in their headers, they expose signals like SCL, spam confidence level, and BCL, bulk complaint level. Here's an example. And it demonstrates one thing that I notice and I think is funny, which is that even the money-making parts of a business, a mailbox provider's business, do not get the free pass into the customers' inboxes. So this is an email from Microsoft Advertising, which landed in Outlook junk folder. And Microsoft classified it as high confidence spam, although for some reason they decided it's not from a bulk sender. And the last hidden layer that I want to cover is construction. And this is the part of the email that senders pretty much never look at directly, especially if they're using a drag and drop builder. Because the email might look fine in the editor, but the actual HTML can be bloated or just hard for inbox clients to render consistently. One obvious example is a Gmail clipping. If the message is too large, and that doesn't mean that it's long, Gmail may cut it off and hide the bottom behind a view entire message link. And that can bury important content, tracking pixel, your legal footer, or the unsubscribe access, and just generally make it feel broken or incomplete. So this is what a clipping message looks like in Gmail. And here's a pretty egregious example of email bloat. And it happened because the sender apparently built the email in Google Docs and copy and pasted it. And their specific email marketing platform helpfully copied all of the information. So the viewable text of this paragraph is 121 characters, and the data weight is 125 bytes. The hidden code behind it was 9,439 characters. And so the bloat factor was 78 or 75 times. This is what it looked like behind the scenes. Another surprising sort of bloat, aside from copy-paste, links are a common source of code bloat. So popular platforms tracking links around 300 to 500 characters long, and some platform links can be over 1,000 characters long. Also, these links are duplicated in the plain text version that most platforms automatically generate. So it may seem like a small amount, but it can put you over that 102 kilobyte limit that Gmail imposes. So if your newsletter contains dozens of links, do watch out for your for how those links are tracked. So we have gone over a lot. Let's wrap it up. When you're building your email, review it in 3 ways. So pass 1 should be the recipient view. Would I or someone I vaguely know recognize this and understand why they're getting it? Pass 2 is the resilience view. Does this message still work when conditions are imperfect? If images don't load, if something else happens. When I'm in the middle of Costco, images don't usually load. I still need to be able to read the information that I want to, that I need to get. And lastly, the pass 3 is the machine view. Can the mailbox providers, clients, and scanners and AI helpers process it cleanly? And again, it can feel like there's a lot of things to check, but let's dive into this and simplify it. So, would one of your recipients recognize the sender? Does the subject and second line match the relationship? Again, this can be preview text or the AI generated summary. Would your recipient know why they're receiving it? Is the main point clear quickly? Can they leave or change preferences without friction? And second pass is, would this message survive under imperfect conditions? Can you just skim the headings and get the sense of what it's about? Is it possible to search for this email later? Does it work if images do not load? Can it be read aloud or translated? Is the call to action understandable without image context? Does it work on mobile and in dark mode? because people can read emails in bright lights, on small screens, with tired eyes, bad connectivity, through translation tools, with voice read, with images blocked, just months later through search. So we don't want the message to be trapped in images or hidden behind vague buttons or written without searchable terms. We want it to be accessible more than once. And lastly is the machine feel. And this does not mean trying to outsmart spam filters. It means making the email coherent enough that mailbox providers, security systems, and AI tools can process it without unnecessary friction. So does your authentication align? Are the list unsubscribe headers present and functional? Are links coherent and not over redirected? Are they going to a reputable destination? Is the HTML bloated or likely to be clipped? And most importantly, do your visible and technical sender identity tell the same story? A deliverable email is built before it is sent. This is the kind of the TLDR of the whole talk. A deliverable email is not just authenticated. It's not just well designed. It's not just wanted. It needs all of those pieces working together. So before you send, ask whether the recipient will recognize it, whether this message can survive real inbox conditions, whether links and destinations support trust, whether people can leave cleanly, and whether the technical layers tell the same story as the visible email. Deliverability is built before the email is sent. The send button just reveals how well it holds together. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that this jaunt through the anatomy of an email was helpful.
Thank you very much. Yes, it was definitely helpful. A lot of examples and illustration, a lot of advices. Everybody have a checklist based on your presentation. Thank you very much. But I still have some question for, really I have a lot of them, but we're almost out of time. I will try to be short. Okay, and one thing you mentioned, not a lot of senders really understand the value of AI summarization, that now we have additional reader who read our email and show the summaries to a recipient. And sometimes it shows it in a different way. And you said that sometimes it shows not what we expect. Did you see any examples when AI shows wrong summaries to customers?
There have been some pretty funny ones that I have seen. Usually I think it's a little more subtle, where it just changes the message a little, or again, it surfaces a point. Like I showed you, like my newsletter was quite long, and there was one little point about, my prices going up, and it distracted it in a 2-line summary. That one line became a line. So it can be a little unpredictable, and I think I answered it, so I think it should be all right, hopefully.
Yeah, okay. And if AI can show our email in some unpredictable way, do you know any tool or some suggestion how we can test how AI see our email and how it can be in a different summarization email clients?
I think that some testing platforms are adding that, but the way that I test it is just basically to send test emails to different email addresses
and check how
seeing how they process. Yeah,
and ask how AI see your email. Just ask him. You can always also add some connector to your email client and ask another AI like a ChatGPT or Claude or something else. Yeah, but you definitely need to test. I very agree with you.
Absolutely.
Another thing, it's a really funny thing you just mentioned about one link, one click on subscribing. So yeah, a lot of people started to add one click unsubscribe in the footer of the email. Mm-hmm. And some bots click through the links and unsubscribe automatically.
Exactly.
So,
yes. Which is why I say it should go to a page where they should confirm. And sometimes recipients think that it's extra friction. Like, don't add any extra frictions, like asking them to fill in the email address, or especially not to sign in, because that is actually against CAN spam. But asking them to confirm, did you really mean it? Because sometimes people forward, and yes, security tools sometimes click every single link.
yeah, and some people do unsubscribe page with a button return me back. So if somebody accidentally clicked, but bot never click on the second link to recover you. So it's better to have a double opt-out, double opt-in, double opt-out. Yes, it's funny because we lost so many subscribers because of this. And also, you said that it's good to be recognizable in inbox before email opened, when email client shows your logo, and how to configure them. How important to do BME authorization or some Gravatar or some services where I have to provide my logo?
It's complicated, as the saying goes. If you're a large sender and you have the budget, BIMI with VMC, a verified certificate, is kind of the gold star. But even then, some mailbox writers don't support it. So, setting your Google identity can help you show up in Gmail. Setting up BIMI even without VMC can help you with Yahoo. Setting up Apple Business Connect and getting that logo approved can help with Apple. But all of it is a lot of work, quite frankly, and it is hard, and it's still unpredictable. I send emails to multiple seed lists, and they all show up differently, even if it's all Gmail.
It's interesting. Do you have any experience when somebody configured BIMI and deliverability improved, or just some just certification to keep logo in some email clients? Is it improved deliverability when I have a certificate?
I don't think that you will get some automatic pass, but where it helps, I showed, for example, Stripe. They need to prove that they're actually Stripe and not someone pretending to be Stripe. And in that case, it does help. So if you're a financial institution or like someone who is likely to be spoofed, I would prioritize it. But the important thing is the recognition. If you have BIMI and the recipient doesn't recognize you, it does not matter that you have BIMI and VMC.
Exactly. So only if you really need to trust and you experience some phishing attack. Yeah. So if people want to pretend they are you definitely need some extra stamp, extra signature that you is you.
It's a nice to have, and I loved when you went over how it was to get that VMC. That was a great breakdown, and until then I did not realize just how much work it is beyond the cost.
It is, exactly. So and there are a lot of limitations. If you have your logo, for example, registered in a wrong way in trademark, you cannot use it. So sometimes it's better not to have BIMI if people don't want to be you. Thank you. And also interesting question about the hidden math in email in the links. So links adding a lot of bytes in your email. And you said that please don't use shorteners.
Yes.
Like bit.ly and something.
Bit.ly does not belong in your email. Even if you want those analytics or it helps you manage your destinations, you want to have as few redirects as possible.
Yeah, but if you have, I don't know, your own ESP, and this ESP, can you have a suggestion to ESP? They always track your links, so they rope into their own link. So can they use their own shortener, or it's better to keep your whole link in a link so that Gmail can see link without clicking on it?
This one's complicated because some ESPs don't let you turn it off. Many ESPs, like my ESP, I have to be on an enterprise level to have a custom tracking domain. And if you're a low volume sender, a custom tracking domain may actually not be a positive because you don't have enough reputation. So I can't give a solid answer to that because there's a lot of limitations from your platform.
Yeah, and you just mentioned about the reputation. Do you have any suggestion what kind of tools should we use to track our reputation? Like, I don't know, Google Postmaster or something that because of Google Postmaster shows only what Google thinks about you.
Yeah.
But maybe something.
Google Postmaster is the gold standard. And you said, well, it's just Google. Okay, first, it's usually at least 50% of a B2C email list, and often a lot more. But also, they give us great data. And thirdly, a lot of people still don't know about it. Mm-hmm. I've had actual email professionals surprised that it exists. Knowing about it and checking it, I think, would be my number one recommendation.
Yeah.
There's also Yahoo Postmaster, which is growing. And, my number one advice for senders is regularly subscribe to your email list. Every few months, just go and sign up with the new email address. And you will be surprised.
So should we create emails especially for this? Just for seeding, or maybe?
You could delete your old one, and there's also a lot of hacks. Like with Gmail, you can add a plus. I add a plus and just a date. So today I would add,
some services cut it out. They don't allow to add plus something.
That's true. There's also a lot of disposable generators and stuff. There's ways to test it. If you absolutely can't, just delete your test user and try again. But that is I guarantee that you will have a surprise if you haven't done this in a long time.
Yeah, it's interesting. And here is my next question. So if somebody asks you for audit in Box Welcome, what usually you ask them to provide for you, and what is the first thing you check?
Well, of course, I ask them for access to their ESP and Google Postmaster tools, Yahoo Postmaster, whatever they have behind the scenes. The important thing is, where are the subscribers coming from? How do people get on the list? If it's a purchase list, I do not work with those senders, but there's a difference between someone specifically opting in on your page and someone coming in through a referral network or something, or a joint webinar or something else. So that is.
But people usually say that we have a great database, we gather them. So do you have any tricks to understand the low quality of base?
Bounces. That's the number one indicator. Your soft bounces and your hard bounces.
So it means that first thing you have to do, just remove the contacts with certainly hard bounces and audit your soft bounces.
Well, first, double check if your ESP actually removes people with hard bounces. I have recently saw one that does not. When there's a typo, they just keep trying. And others, they just keep trying with soft bounces. If you're continually getting mailboxes full, that person isn't coming back.
Yeah, usually
that's a hard bounce.
Yeah, so it's not always very easy to understand where is a soft bounce based the code and where is a hard bounce, and you have to add some heuristic. By the way, based on heuristics, do you, suggest some book or skill for Claude or ChatGPT or Codex that is good to use for your internal AI audit or some maybe fixing some problems? Do you have some experience writing or using
That's an
some
interesting
skills for
question.
this?
I haven't. That's an interesting question. I definitely would say do not build your emails in Claude or ChatGPT. They should not be generating code because what they generate is website code. You do not generate email-friendly code.
Here you have a skill for email generation code for emails. So
I would love to see
AI,
it because I have been getting more emails in my inbox that are clearly generated with AI. They all look pretty similar and they're all hard to
yes,
read. They're all
yes.
badly structured.
The same for a lot of new startups, even not in an email. When you open a landing page, you can recognize, okay, I even know which model generated your site.
Yes.
And you're losing trust from the very first view.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I am so tired of gray text on black background, skinny and tiny gray text. Like, I can't read this. I don't want to read this. I do not care.
Exactly. Accessibility is very important, especially. But sometimes people write in a light mode when they send. They don't really know that they have to check somewhere for dark mode.
Oh yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
we have Apple does mode one way, Gmail does dark mode the other way. It's a lot.
Yeah. And there is no standard in any email clients. It's a big
Nope.
pain for any email geek. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And thank you. We are out of time, so I still have a lot of questions, but let's finish with one, maybe your suggestion. So you did a lot of advices, a lot of checklists. Can you highlight 3 things that vitally important to check today if they don't have an answer? Can you show the biggest mistake or the biggest thing to check today? 3 things.
So again, number one advice is subscribe to your own email list. Read your welcome email. If there is one thing that I would love to banish, it's set it and forget it. Because a lot of times people set up their welcome email early on and they never, ever, ever check it. It's your first impression. Do you really want it to be one from 2 years ago? So that's why people are surprised what they see. I've had 2 clients very close together who didn't realize that they actually had 2 separate systems connected to the welcome trigger. So they were sending emails from 2 parallel systems and the unsubscribes weren't syncing. So there's going to be a surprise, I promise, if you haven't touched it. So definitely audit your automations. They're wonderful and they do a lot of work, but they do need care and tending.
How to test your automation? Because if it's hard, usually automation is based on some triggers. You do purchase, you don't do any action for 3 months. How to test triggers?
If they're tags, just add the tag. At the very least, just go through and look at the automation, send yourself test emails. Ideally, again, the most important one is that welcome one. Make sure it's customized and current. It is the first impression that someone gets of you. And do test your email without images turned on, and also see how the AI summarizers summarize it. What do they extract from it? Because increasingly people are triaging their emails. They're driving the car and it's reading out loud, and they decide what to keep, what to read in depth later. So it isn't just, the perfect thing on the large desktop and everything is quite uncomfortable. That is not how people read.
Yeah, you just mentioned that people read email driving. And here it's, sorry, but another question I want to ask. Where is important place to land with your email? In priority, in promotional, in notification? or should we fight for being in priority, or it's not the our goal?
There's nothing wrong with being in promotions. And so here's why. First, a lot of people actually turn the tabs off completely. I do. I don't even have that. Then a lot of people read on clients like Apple Mail, which does its own sorting. They don't actually use Google sorting. So if you try to game the inbox, you're gonna be very sad and waste a lot of time. Because Yahoo does their own, Microsoft does their own, everyone does their own thing. It's not going to match at all. And the important thing is do not end up in spam. Like that's a priority.
It's infinity game with no winner here. you know, I even had a case when people won this game and moved from promotional into priority, but the recipient didn't expect this and marked as spam a lot. And they spoiled their reputation.
They're in the give me the important stuff mode. I just need to get through these emails right now. They're not in the I'm ready to shop, or I'm relaxing, so I'm just gonna look in this newsletters or updates or whatever. So if people are very intentional about their inbox sorting, then hacking it will backfire.
Exactly. Yeah. So we never have to. If it's promotional, the best place for this in promotional.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of times it ends up in like updates. If people think promotions is bad, what about updates? Is that okay? Newsletters, like other tags, why are those not worrisome?
And and here another challenge. If it's update like your order status or something, and you add some recommendation email, it became promotional or still just status update. How to
it's
find
gonna be
this?
different for every single mailbox. Like it's not global. Like Gmail doesn't put your email, your single campaign into promotions for every single recipient. They're gonna put it in different places. So again, trying to hack it is just not worth the headache.
Yeah, so we have different levels of personalization on the recipient side. When Gmail trying to personalize your personalized email, so they're doing your work. Anyway, MV, thank you very much for your presentation, for the context, for your advices, for examples. It was pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, unfortunately we are out of time, but we still maybe we will. It would be good if we send some questions to you as a follow up.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, great. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for your time. That was a fantastic session, and we thank you again for having such a great presentation. I think everyone watching now has a very different checklist for their next send.